Okay.
Hey, Susanna, come on in.
I'm okay, it's cold out there though.
Yeah.
Gosh, be right back.
Yeah.
There's a freeze warning, not here, but like Connecticut,
Oh, we're gonna be okay? I don't have to like cover my plants and stuff?
no, but there's a freeze warning, but our temps are going down into the 30s.
It's gonna go down to 32.
Wow.
Well, if it kills my plants, so be it.
What? That's how we live it today.
And as some of my relatives would say, it's God's will.
Why don't we just wait until Susanna comes back in and then we'll start us up.
Do we have an agenda?
We do have an agenda to print it out. What I just added to it that's not on there, Troy Ellen, is community fridges.
There's new what?
Community fridges, which you had asked, had on the agenda.
Right.
So I just added that to old business. And then I'll share it on my screen again in just a moment. Maybe someone in via Zoom.
I love the basil and the, is that mint or basil?
mint.
It's mint.
Oh, here comes everybody. Here comes Vicky. Here comes Alice. Right. Welcome, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. We have another.
Hi, everyone.
Who's joining us in just a minute, but let's get ourselves going. We are live streaming. So what I usually do is I kick us off with a round of introductions. I can go first in our room here, and then we'll go on screen. So as most of you already know, I'm Emily Flynn. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness for the City of Kingston. I use she, her pronouns, and I will pass to Marcia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marcia Sebro. I'm a project manager in the Health and Wellness Department for the City of Kingston.
Do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, yes, hi, I'm Troy Ellen Dixon, I'm the chair of the Well Kingston Commission, and my pronouns are she, her, they, and I'll pass to Susanna.
Hi, Susanna Callahan, Institute for Feeling Health.
That's it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
I'm gonna go in order of the screen that I see. I see Vicky and then Ellis and then Kristen. So Vicky, wanna go ahead?
Okay, yes, hi, everybody. I'm Vicki Gore, and I'm Vice President of Business Services with Gateway Hudson Valley.
Thank you so much, Dr. Later. Go ahead, right ahead.
So figure out how to unmute. Dr. Later, I'm a cardiologist, the director of the Department of Cardiology over at Health Alliance Hospital.
Thank you as always, Kristen. If you're there, right ahead, and then Tanya.
Hi, Kristen Kessler. I am a project manager in the Department of Health and Wellness for the City of Kingston.
Thank you. And Tanya, if you're there, would you like to come off mute and introduce yourself?
Hi, Tanya Garment. I'm a resident of the City of Kingston.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Going to share on the screen the agenda. I hope to have a quick meeting tonight. I have a hard stop at 6. I gotta pick up my kid. So 6.
It ends at 5:45.
Yeah, so we gotta leave the building at 6.
Oh, okay.
I'm putting it out there now.
Well, when you say quick meeting, I was like, oh, we'll be out at 5:15.
Oh, it'll be before that. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes we have little side, conversations afterwards. I cannot hang around. We gotta go. So, as you see, the real meat of our meeting tonight is going to be a Play Well focus team presentation by Marcia, but I have just a few things to go through before we get there. Let's see, Dr. Later is here remotely and Vicky is here remotely. Would either of you, I'm gonna go off sharing my screen for a second to ask you a question. Would either of you be able to put your location on the agenda to count towards quorum, or would you rather not tonight?
Oh, I can put my location. Why wouldn't I? Unless you have a cruise missile aimed at me.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's home address, right?
Where you're calling in from, if you don't mind sharing it, then you can be added toward quorum.
Oh, I'm in New
Yes.
Paltz, New York.
Doctor, yeah, both of you, if you want to, help with this, do you mind putting it in the chat for me, and then I can put it onto our.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm calling in from home. I really don't want to
Good,
use my home address. I'll have to remember that next time.
totally fine. Thank you so much, Vicky. Did someone want to say something?
I was just gonna say, it's not just the location, it's the full address.
It's a full address.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then I think that means that we do not, so later, Troy Ellen, so we do not have a quorum. So right, so I'm gonna move us past the minutes. We'll do that another time. I don't have anything in administrative matters. Oh, let me share my screen again so you can see our agenda for tonight. And Tanya, I see that you'd like to make a comment. Let me make a moment for that in just a second. So I don't have any administrative matters, and then I have just a few things in old business. So why don't I take a moment then before old business to let Tanya make a comment, and then we'll go into an update about some letters of support that we've made. Then we'll talk a little bit about community agreements and community fridges. But Tanya, would you like to have just a couple, like 3 minutes or so, if you want to make a public comment? Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm thinking these days a lot about different travel things. I'm not clear on who represents travel Well Kingston these days at Live Well. I think it's really important to have representation for traveling. It's so much a part of the way we live our everyday life, active transportation, as well as safety on the streets. Is really important. We have a few different topics coming up in the city of Kingston tonight, by the way, laws and rules. We'll be discussing the bike share legislation that's being proposed. And I know that you guys went over it over the past year. I'm not sure when you revisited it in February, if you knew that the scope had changed significantly from before the Common Council got it. The legislation that they have before them right now actually changed. The scope when you were looking at it last year said that it was a proposed ordinance for the operation of shared systems, including any shared devices within the city. So that would be legislation regarding a shared system. But the scope changed in January when the Corporation Council of the City of Kingston went over it and gave it to the Common Council. So the new scope is, it applies to the operation of bicycles, electric bicycles and scooters, and to the regulation of shared mobility systems. So this is new legislation that is for bicycles, for everybody's personal vehicle. And that's a huge deal. It really needs to be taken seriously for what it is. We are now proposing to legislate things like trick riding, things like that. Like, do we really want to be sending the cops after kids papa wheeling? So I hope that you guys will take a fresh look at it and think about whether we really should be combining the two. And actually, really, the Common Council is worried about, members of the Common Council's Laws and Rules Committee are very worried about there's a lot of crashes that continue to happen. For instance, just about more than a week ago, there were 3 on one day, one on the Kingston Green Line crossing at First Avenue, and 2 outside of People's Place. So these crashes continue to happen at intersections, especially for bicyclists. And the Common Council is not very educated in terms of street design and its impacts on safety. And so they are saying things like, well, let's make sure we have more laws for bicyclists, and let's make sure we don't encourage more bicycling because we're not ready for it. And maybe we're not. Maybe we need better infrastructure. but they are going ahead with the legislation so we can give tickets to bicyclists. So I wanted to ask you, who is Travel Well? Do you have representation? Are you looking for representation? I'm not offering or anything. I just don't know who Travel Well is. And then there's the parking issue. Lastly, is that the city of Kingston is about to have a new form-based code. And parking hopefully will be managed, the parking inventory that we have, so that we don't continue to encourage sprawl and so that we can make better use of our parking. So it's something else to watch. I don't want to take up any more time though.
Thank you, Tanya. I can try to answer a few of those questions. So yeah, Travel Well does not meet regularly at this time. A lot of my work I put in the Travel Well bucket. That's the managing of the pedestrian bicycle master plan. That's a lot of my work on the Green Line. That's the Be a Road Hero at Transportation Education Campaign. In the past, Travel Well was made up of 3 different groups. It was the Green Line Committee, Bike Friendly Kingston, and the Complete Streets Advisory Council. And we would pull sort of the chairs of those committees together every once in a while. The landscape has changed a little bit. Bike Friendly Kingston is much less active than it once was. The Green Line Committee is much less active. So it's really the Complete Streets Council that is very active these days. And I'm now the staff liaison to that group. So in some ways, the Complete Streets Advisory Council sort of acting like the Travel Well Committee could. So I don't see a reason to make another meeting. That's already happening in some ways. What else can I say about that? So that's the structure for Liverpool right now. Always happy to address that at any time. Tanya, I was a little bit involved in that bike legislation. I haven't seen what's being promoted tonight. Thank you for drawing our attention to that. My understanding is that they have separated out the legislation to only be addressing the e-bike share system, not any other additional legislation on popping a wheelie. I believe that that's all been stripped out. But again, I have not seen what's been going in front of that committee tonight, but that was as of probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. That was what I had seen. So thank you for drawing our attention to that. We can go look for that for sure. And if the commission would like to have Julie or someone who's working on that legislation come back and talk to us about it, we can definitely invite them as well.
Wasn't Julie in our February meeting?
She was, and
went through that detail with us.
Very detailed, yeah.
yeah, and as Tanya's saying, then my understanding of what happened was that then laws and rules changed some of the proposed legislation, right? Or Julie did. As it goes through all of the different committees and people, everyone has edits, like we gave them edits. Yeah. So then we didn't see that legislation again when it then went to laws and rules.
Having the updates is probably necessary, is probably sufficient, rather than having somebody come back and revisit the whole thing.
Yes.
It's like, was this, is now this.
Right.
Just those areas that change.
Yeah.
Would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I get that legislation for you all, I can send that
Just
out
to-
to you.
Yeah.
Great. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to share before we move on the agenda? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, for
Thank you,
joining us.
Tanya.
Going back to the agenda, okay, so I was gonna move us into old business. 2 letters of support updates. The first one, I didn't link on here, but the zoning letter that you all approved got sent to the common council. And we did hear back from one of the council members thanking us for that.
Was that about
My older person.
like grocery stores kind of
Yeah,
thing?
it was about, no, that was about the zoning code. So that was about, Zoom second, a little weird for me. That was talking about parking minimums, and yes, it was corner grocery stores.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, if you all hiccuped there, my Zoom said it quit, but it seems to be back again, so I'm not sure what happened there. So thank you very much. It was nice to get recognition from one of the older people that they had received that letter. And then I saw today that the Complete Streets Advisory Council sent slightly different letter, but of support for the zoning code as well. I think that's because they were inspired by ours. I'm connecting a few dots there, but we did ours first, and I sent it to them and was like, you could consider doing this. And it looks like they did. So I'm proud of us for sort of starting.
I thought we might have had a hand in it somehow because we were all copied on it.
Were you all? Okay.
Yeah,
great.
well, at least I was, maybe as chair, did everybody else see it? Okay,
Because when I sent the letter, I CC'd you as chair.
Oh, okay.
Because you signed it.
yes, I
At
did.
the very least, you should see that you will, what it said.
Hi. Good to
Yeah.
see you.
Heidi, we did go around and introduce ourselves. Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself? Sorry about that.
Sure. Hi, I'm Heidi with the YMCA.
Great, thanks. All right. Next up, I wanted the Equitable Food Access Letter. This was a letter of education that Place Corps created with Kristen Kessler, our colleague, who met with them to build out this content. I was sort of, what's the word? I was procrastinating a little bit, and I would try to figure out why that was. And here's my thoughts on it. I recommend that we pause for a little bit. I think that data and education will be just as poignant. My thought is that we could align it with, we're going to be doing a food systems request for proposals. And when we get a contractor to help us figure out a food systems plan, I'd like this letter to maybe go out with it in a way sort of justifying our want to do a food systems project. And I feel like the topics can be nicely aligned. I'm open to feedback, of course. It was sort of a realignment of how, my thought was in this letter of education, that the council people will be confused by what is the action here? And there really wasn't an action, it was really a letter of education, which is totally valid, I think. But if we could combine it with an action, I think they might understand why they're getting it. Carol, is your hand?
How long is the RFP process?
A month. We don't have it written or posted yet, but then once it's out, we would like to have it out for a month.
And so a month would, in 30 days, people would respond and you'd select somebody?
And then it takes couple of weeks to select.
Okay, that's fine. I was just, I didn't want it to be like a 6-month RFP process.
Yeah,
And what is the scope of that project?
the RFP, that's great. Actually, Kristen, can I have you talk to that since you're the one who's been writing it?
I can. My sound went out. So can you tell me what the question about the RFP is?
Oh, sure. Just a quick summary of what the RFP will be asking for.
Yeah, of course. So that's an objective in motion right now. But the RFP, this came out of the ARPA plan that the city of Kingston has for the funding that we received to develop a plan that would help to strengthen our food system to address food insecurity. So that's kind of like the overall goal, and having lots of conversations with people both locally to Kingston, regionally in the Hudson Valley, and then conversations with people across the state. Currently narrowing down that ask because we don't have all of the money in the world to ask them to do this like giant project. It'll be very specifically, what can the city of Kingston as a municipality do to help strengthen our food system to address food security? So what can we do as a municipality? What can we do in collaboration with our community partners to help address food security? So there's, sorry guys, I feel like my son is sick. And so obviously everyone in our house is sick, which is why I'm not there in person with you today. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of the RFP for the project.
So, sorry, I'm a little confused, so just reread the letter. So just remind me again, why we're waiting for the RFP to come out and what we would incorporate differently into the letter?
I don't know that I would incorporate more difference in the letter, except that connecting it to this RFP plan. So it's a little bit like, here's the status of the food system in the city of Kingston, and here's sort of why we want to do a deeper report about it. Here's why we want to dig deeper into it. To me, that felt like a marriage where we could draw attention not only to the potential opportunities, let's say, that we have here, and that we have a project we want you to be aware of.
I think, it'll be a great time to highlight to the Common Council that we will be asking them to take action in the future. So letting them know that we are coming up with a plan, that we'll have an expert coming in, and that there will be at some point. So there's not specifically an action in the moment, but it's kind of like we're asking you to support this objective and this work, and we will be following up with likely, I would love to see, it's in the RFP, specific policy recommendations that the city of Kingston can adopt. And so that will be action for the Common Council to review that and to consider it and to adopt it, hopefully, whatever these policies are.
So I'm sorry, repeat your timing that you wanted to do this with again, letter with.
I didn't have like a, I didn't write out the timeline, but it was more like, so we're working on the RFP now. We hope to get that out in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
That gets published for a month. Then folks have a month to submit as proposals, it's the consultants to write the emergency food plan. And then we would go into contracts. So it usually takes a couple of weeks to select the person and then contract.
So do you want the letter?
When would it go out in that process?
When were you thinking that it should go out?
It could go out when we announce the request for proposals.
Okay,
was
that
one
seems-
thought.
Yeah,
Or we could wait and do it when we have the contract in place
Right.
and we are like, often in a planning project, we also do outreach.
right.
So it could be part of, like, we do a release, usually like a looking outreach. We also do a release for when we release a request for proposals. So there's actually a few opportunities that we could choose to send it out. I guess maybe that's why I would be unclear about the timing, because like, it could be a number of one of those times.
I feel not sufficiently well informed, so I'm gonna be a little quiet, but I get a little confused, and I don't want to take a lot of time to help me understand the Common Council's role around all this stuff. But the way I'm thinking is, why not send a letter that is informative to get them thinking about it?
Yeah.
And then, if I understand correctly, which I don't know that I do, this RFP and this application is to, in a sense, to address some of these issues in some systematic or policy way that is going to take time to do anyway. So they're not really related. I mean, I'm saying they're kind of separate in a way. It could be like a follow-up later that, or you could add to this to say, something about, and to address some of these concerns outlined above, there would be an RFP to look at X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah.
I agree with you.
Right, which time, we're gonna be asking the Common Council to further discuss this in the coming months and year or whatever.
All
So
right.
it's kind of like, heads up, we've already done this work, we're really concerned about this.
And
Response, RFP issuing to look at this stuff, and we want to keep this conversation going. Does that, I don't know if that makes
No,
sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, and that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
About,
All right.
I just don't know, I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly enough, so that's my,
Yeah, so it sounds like so my concern about that, you are okay with it, and sure, great, we can send.
I mean, what is your?
Consent, yeah.
I'm digging deeper for sure.
well, Emily,
Yeah.
you said, as I heard it,
Yeah.
that you wanted to have the education given action in the same time frame.
but what's the action?
But it be the RFP.
Right.
But I don't think that it needs to happen within days of each other.
Yeah. There's also, here's an element that I haven't added I'm sorry that I was way back, but I just, like, the letter's also pretty critical of the city.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a sensitive time in the next couple of months. So there's a part of me that wants to wait and be critical and also offer solutions. So we list in the letter what we're currently doing, and then there's quite a bit of what opportunity, what needs to happen. And it felt like a sensitive time to send it.
Because of the election,
Yes.
no, sorry. I'm not swayed by that.
All right.
As a matter of fact, this perhaps is the time because people are focused on things that need to be addressed within the city.
Okay.
We get a lot more eyeballs in this time frame.
Okay.
I
That's
don't
my
look at
opinion.
this as being overly critical at all. There's so much happening. Saying the city's done this, I mean, there's
Exactly.
10 bullet points, and then only at the very end does it say, and I don't even know that the city is responsible for fixing all of this. I don't think it's,
Yeah, that's great to hear that.
the life expectancy is not just about food access, there's a lot of other issues in
Yeah.
life
Yeah, I mean,
expectancy.
to me, I see this as data.
Okay,
I mean, I see how some people might find it critical, but that's certainly not our intent.
I see
And
food
if they-
access.
and if they internalize and personalize it that way, that speaks volumes as well.
I think you could add something about, that being excited about this RFP. It's going to
Yeah, right,
offer,
right.
you
That is
know,
another
offer-
thing that's-
Oh, I would totally add
yeah,
that.
it's then you're
Exactly.
connecting dots to the process, saying,
Yeah.
you're not just saying, you do
Yeah.
this, you don't do this, you do this. This RFP is gonna be
okay.
very instrumental in starting to make change.
Is it one award?
Is it one award?
Yeah.
Yeah,
One award.
yeah, it's one project.
One project.
Concerns. Yeah.
And I would mention that in this too. Yeah.
Anybody calling in remotely want to chime in? Otherwise, if we're sort of having consensus here in the room, anybody want to say anything?
Actually.
No.
I help you actually.
No,
Welcome,
it's
Lori.
okay.
Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I got here late, so I couldn't get into the building.
Oh, are you downstairs?
Yes.
Oh, I'll come down and
I'll
meet you. Yeah, oh, Susanna will
I'll
come.
come to the door, the main, where is it? The only door.
Outside.
The only door, right?
Yeah, outside.
I'll open it for you. Come on
Okay.
So sorry about that.
It's okay.
Our other staff is supposed to unlock it. I'm like, did you want to move out of the side? It's about to go. All right, so,
I think it's good that
Yeah.
these things get put out there. I mean, and you've related it, you know, to food and food access. But some of the things you bring up, especially with the transportation and UCAT access, isn't just solely food. I mean, so it's good to get it out there.
Yes, exactly.
great. So what I'm hearing from the folks here in the room, and if anybody else wants to chime in, is that, so we'll send out the letter sort of as planned. We'll add in, a little more information about the upcoming. and
Hey, how are you?
You're gonna see the,
Hey, you,
yeah, Lori, can you?
I'm trying.
you can put it
Yes,
on,
great.
and you can put it on the meeting too,
Um,
remotely.
Oh. great. So we're gonna update it, we'll send out a letter of education then, and then we'll maybe even follow up with the common council when we say that we've announced this plan, which is part of the ARPA funding, so hopefully we'll get some more. It'll be more widely known through that process as well. And then we'll move on from there. Thank you for the feedback, I appreciate it.
No, thank you for bringing this up.
Yes. Oh, but there is sort of a matter of procedure. So do we want to vote on this letter tonight, or do we just want to use our procedure where the chair sort of makes the decision for any letters of support?
Well, I think the decision's been made, I'm just gonna look at
Yeah.
the last sentence.
Okay. Well, 'cause last month, we decided we wanted to review it again for this month.
Right.
Okay. So I guess it's sort of a chance for anybody else to give us any feedback on that letter before we advance it.
Send the letter.
Okay, I'll email it out to you all again.
And then you just need us to say, it's fine, respond to it.
We can do it that way.
Or just,
We have the process for
Okay.
like letters of support. This is slightly different. It's
Okay.
on letter of support. So yeah, why don't we have that so that you can all reply back to me?
okay.
So then we can sort of do it by consensus. Lori, welcome.
Wonderful.
Lori, do you want to take a moment and introduce yourself or whatever you'd like, or we can move on? Would you like to introduce?
I am Lori, Commissioner volunteer at People's Place, nurse chef, nutritionist.
That's a lot. Thank you for joining us. All right, okay. Whew, thank you for all that. Okay. Next up is a bit of a discussion about community agreements. I introduced,
Did you put the fridge on there?
I did. It's after the,
Can we do community fridges, because
Yeah.
it relates to the
sure.
food access?
Take it away, Troy.
Yeah, I'm just, there are currently three community fridges in Kingston. One of them was intentionally put on Broadway, so it would be in walking distance of many people who would use it. For various reasons, it's not on Broadway anymore. It's been relocated to a Beale Street, which has no public transportation and is a bit of a hike. However, people have been using it. People have been taking and people have been giving. But it is not as well used as it was once before. The thing that we're talking about here is not just the 3 fridges or the Wilbur free fridge or anything, but it's about these fridges are being used by people in the community. People are contributing. Business owners, for example, Meat Wagon, for example, will put in a lot of, frozen meats and, foods. And I've been out there, because the one on Beale Street is where I live. And I've been out there and I've seen people go to the fridge, so it really is used. I think what we need to do is establish in the city, this is me speaking, a network of free fridges, so that people wherever they live. Now, there's all sorts of concerns, obviously, there's that old law from the 60s, when they had the pull handle fridges. You can't have, you have to put a lock on the fridge. Well, we don't have pull handle fridges at this point, you can kick the door open. There is also the, like, where does it get plugged in? How does it get maintained? Well, there are people in the community who are willing to maintain it. They clean it, they, dump the trash, the compost, the this, the that, the other. Essentially, all of the reasons why people talk about why we can't do it are not insurmountable. And so as part of even this RFP, if we're talking about strengthening the food system to address food insecurity, let's think a little broader. It's not just about getting, farm fresh produce that's available for all. It's about putting the food where people live.
Can I ask you a question, really basic? And maybe I'm not the only one. What is the scope of a community fridge? Like, what, can you define it? Like, who gets to access it? What's it?
Everybody gets access.
No questions.
No questions, it's a community fridge.
And pantry too, isn't
Who
there
fills
usually
it?
a
Who
pantry
fills
next
it?
to it?
People in the community.
Right.
I know, I'm not trying to sound glib. It's
No.
businesses, it's individuals.
Okay.
If I'm preparing something in my home, I have to put when it was prepared, I have to put if it's got nuts in it, or if it's gluten-free, or it's this. And members of the community, the fridge committees, for lack of a better term, they go around and they make sure stuff is starting to turn, they take it out.
So there are like committees that manage them and stuff. Okay.
So it's businesses in the community and it's individuals.
Like
in the
restaurants
community.
and stores.
Yeah, usually whoever takes ownership to fridge will take on, making sure that stuff doesn't get old in it. And that, identify what's kind of needed and talk to people.
Right, and it's not like, I have Mondays and someone else has Tuesdays and so on. It's when people have stuff that's,
Right.
like I said, Stefano at Meat Wagon, we've gotten stuff from Village Grocery and Refillery. And it's whether it's the Clinton Avenue fridge or the one on Van Buren or the one now on Beale Street.
And then word of mouth, people find out about it.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and it's on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, and there was somebody last month who walked all the way from the Rondout Gardens down to Beale Street. And unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot in there, but it was kismet because he was talking to the owner of Blackbird, and he was like, you know, I would really love some apples. And there was a customer at Blackbird who had a whole bunch of apples in the back of his truck. And he gave him the apples, and he gave him a ride back home. And I mean, that's the community aspect of it. But going back to my original point is, as part of this strengthening the food system, making food accessible to all. And I would really like to see that part of the consideration, because then recommendations made about, we can plug it in here, we can use this kind of refrigerator, we can use these kinds of, you know, housing to put the fridge and the pantry in. There's also like dry goods that you can put in.
Are you sort of describing like a community fridge pit, for lack of a better word? Are you talking about policy?
I'm talking about policy.
Yeah.
You know, because what I'm hearing right now is people like, well, you can't put, we had this conversation a little bit last month.
Yeah.
You know, Rondout Gardens, I wasn't talking about the gardens part of it, I was talking about the buildings part of it, but it's like, well, that's the Kingston Housing Authority, and, you know, are they willing to pay for the electricity? Figure out a way that it gets paid for. I'm not an expert when it comes to things like that, but instead of putting up barriers of why we can't even have the conversation, figure it out.
Knock them down.
How do community kitchens like interface?
Community fridges or kitchens.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Kitchens, fridges with food pantries. They seem like sort of very.
Well, that's
different
what
but
she's
similar.
talking, well, it's prepared food
Uh-huh.
most of the time.
Oh, it is, okay.
But, well, there's stuff in the pantry. It's really intended to be gap for when people can't get food and they need it.
Mhm.
It's prepared, it's in communities that are accessible. That's the key, is
Yeah, yeah,
accessibility.
right.
And 24/7.
Right.
And the other thing is, and we've heard this in Kingston Emergency Food Collaborative again and again with the communities that we serve. The reason why we're still delivering things to people is because people do not feel welcome in pantries sometimes.
Yeah.
They're made to be othered.
Yeah,
And it's unfortunate.
yeah.
And I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
everybody at every pantry.
And what we were talking about before the meeting started, it's in community, not charity.
Right.
And there's an
Right.
anonymity, you can go get
Yeah.
food, you don't have to ask anyone for food, which is
Yeah.
really demeaning. And it's this peer-to-peer
Yeah.
concept, right, that it's like, I'm helping you out because you're my.
It's mutual aid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word I said.
Just an aside, I was visiting family in a very little village in Germany last fall, and very little. All families live there and older people, and they had, at the bus stop, they had a vending machine where they had like local farms and other people had healthy prepared foods. Like local sausages from the farmers and this, that people, because it's far to go for a store, so that people on weekends, because stores close there, like us, are not open all the time. People who don't have transportation can go and buy something inexpensive. And I thought, what a brilliant idea, but we're saying it's kind of the same concept, but free.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free.
It's free because many of the people, and you know what, this has been something in Kingston Emergency Food Collaborative that we've always said. Because one of the questions always is, well, what about the people who abuse the system?
They're few and far between.
That's not the norm.
That's not the
Yeah,
norm.
they
Yeah.
That's not the norm.
Let's focus on this. instead of the bigger picture.
And oh, by the way, just because I have the privilege of being able to get to the store and whatever, does that mean I can't go to the community fridge and grab a juice?
No. That's the whole
So
thing.
what do we need to do to
It's
get more community
community.
fridges? What do
It's
we-
Well,
you
that's
guys say,
what
So, so my understanding is that some of it is gosh, I can't even remember the details, but it's either state or local law, there's some laws about the fridges, and the health and safety committee is very concerned about it, because that falls on them to regulate. What if we invited Steve Knox to come and talk to us about?
That's fine.
That's great, that would be really
He is
good.
the director of building and safety. And so if you, for example, if you complain of something, you think that the trash isn't being picked up in an apartment complex, building and safety goes and checks it out. They do the food, I don't know if they do food checks. Like, I think this might be the county. Anyway, that's my understanding that that's been one of the concerns was in that department about the refrigerator's Freon has to be insulated. So that's why the fridge on Clinton Ave is in a thing because it's insulated in the winter time because of the Freon leaking. There's still the law in the books about being trapped inside the refrigerator, so you have to work around the system. So I believe that some of those community fridges are in a shed, which can be locked. That's how you work around that system. For the Beale Street fridge, it's about finding the sponsor, we can't force someone.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm beyond where it ended up.
Yeah,
What I'm talking about is larger,
yeah,
which would probably allow the Beale Street fridge to actually be moved someplace
Right,
that's
right.
more accessible, as opposed to advocating for it on its own. Talking about putting something in this food systems RFP where we address the notion of community fridges.
yeah. I think that food community fridges we were already conceiving that would be part of the system, landscape of food insecurity. So you don't have to convince us of that. Well, my vision.
I never can be sure though, not because of you personally, but because dealing with bureaucracy.
This is bureaucracy, so I appreciate it. But it's sort of like by the master plan, it would do an assessment for the food insecurity. Like, what is the state of our food system in the city of Kingston right now? Then you analyze that, and then they give recommendations. Oh, make a food fridge kit so that folks, here's how you build the shed around the refrigerator. So, I think there's some policy parts, and then I think there's some programming parts.
But I think as the city needs to adopt a policy that makes it easier for us to overcome any of the barriers.
Yeah.
So that when people get a kit,
Yeah,
they're not being told, oh, you can't plug it in, you don't have electricity, or you don't have this. That there's a system in place. And there are people who this is what they're good at figuring out.
yeah,
There's a system in place that if we say, okay, we want it at Rondout Gardens.
right.
The Kingston Housing Authority doesn't, it's not that they can't say no, but they have a way that they can make it happen.
I agree with you totally in theory, but like community gardens is a good example. There's no electricity. To get electricity would be pretty expensive.
I'm not talking about the garden,
Oh, I
I'm
was
talking
thinking
about the
that.
building.
You're talking about the buildings. Okay.
Isn't the buildings called Rondout Gardens?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's a mental goof. Yep.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And would it, I totally agree, and I agree that the barriers that we're creating we're making them bigger than they are.
Right.
And then, but also perhaps, and populations change, but make it clear where they're needed.
Mhm.
Because I'm sure if there was more awareness of that, your community, I think, would kick in. I honestly believe that, because you just don't know where it's needed. I mean, I talked about having one at the Y trying to figure out, but I was like, but they have one there and there. Is that, I didn't know, where is it needed?
It's interesting.
Yeah, where is the need?
And, yeah.
Yeah, so I do think that this emergency food plan would tell us the need. It would be taking a snapshot of the food system in the city of Kingston. So I think we could check off that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm coming back to this idea of a community fridge kit. Because I think some of the things we're talking about is, right, so electricity at the housing authority down there.
And what are you talking about on an annual basis? $200? I don't think the
Yeah.
housing authority is gonna,
I would hope not.
I mean,
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
the community fridge kit is something that should be discussed with the people who have the community fridges, you know,
Yeah,
and,
correct,
and
right,
to
yeah,
see if that's really what they need, because part of the community of the fridges is people figure out where to get the fridge from, they get
Right.
the supplies from, they do this, who's gonna help them, who's gonna, you know, hammer it together, who's gonna paint it, the whole thing, and that strengthens community as well, that whole
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
true,
But I'm talking about the part that just makes it that you can do it. And here's why, whatever the building, housing, safety people say, whatever the city says, whatever this says, whatever that says, it's all figured out.
So maybe it's a Live Well Kingston, either on the website or a hard copy one pager of like, here's a snapshot of community fridges. Here's what the law says. Here's how you can work around that. Is that sort of what you're saying? It's almost like a one-page guide.
No, the city, whoever in the city has to come up with the things that allow people to do it.
Well,
Because you're currently saying, for example, well, we have to have the conversation with the KHA. No, the committee shouldn't have to have the conversation with the KHA. The KHA should be on board with, yes, we'd be willing to host one. And whatever needs to be done to get them nodding their heads yes is what needs to be done. I mean, why don't we have Knox here to have that conversation with him so he can,
To explain the rules around what's possible. Like the same
Yeah,
way that
but-
Julie came and spoke around, well, here's what the laws are now, here's what.
no, I get that, but we also want to be able to ask him, what are the things we would need to do to still be in compliance with those rules?
right.
But not have it as a hurdle, but just as something we need to be aware of, that's all.
right,
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, the kind of decisions that need to be made within the bureaucracy that don't, and getting them, you know, getting buy-in and consensus on their part too. Some of these people view community fridges as, I don't know, not in my backyard.
What would make it sustainable, like in other words?
well, how to bring it to the idea and then make it happen, you know, and then know that the city is already familiar with this and that there's gonna be, this is like the guidance that you've gotten from them, so you can do it. And that it's not starting from scratch every single time you wanna do it.
Exactly.
Because they exist already and they're serving a purpose that meets a need in the community. So you're saying what will make this sustainable, and to have a kit, it can be duplicated in other areas where it's needed.
Yeah, and I guess the word kit to me makes it sound like there's, I'm thinking if that's the case, it's more like, I don't know, toolkit, I don't know, kit, I'm thinking you're giving a kit of things to put together to do it, and that's not what it is.
I don't like the idea of a kit coming from the city. What I want from the city is the ability for people to do it.
But there's already the ability to do it. You just have to, like,
Okay,
oh, no, I just don't understand. Explain what,
if I'm using Kingston Housing Authority as the example,
yeah.
because they have more than one building in this community, in this entire city, right?
Yeah.
That whatever, and as I said, I'm not an expert in all the things that go in, all the details. But at a city level, they work with the Kingston Housing Authority to make it possible for people to just walk up and say, we know there needs to be a community fridge here. And we're prepared to, you know, get it, maintain it, build it and everything. We just need some place to put it and plug it in.
But the city can't tell the Kingston Housing Authority to do something.
I'm not saying the city can tell them.
She's just using.
I'm using that as an
Kingston
example of what conversations need to be had by which parties
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this conversation,
Yeah, and I don't
we're
think we make it
creating
difficult.
hurdles.
No,
That's why we can't even have this conversation.
So the mayor can pick up the phone and talk to the Kingston Housing thing, say, look, it's been identified that we'd like to do this. There's private entities, private people who would like to do this. How do we make it as painless as possible for them to do this here?
Yeah,
So
that's it.
Yeah.
Thank
Do
you.
you want to ask them?
It doesn't have to be the mayor, who's ever the best.
I'm not
Yeah,
suggesting
yeah.
that we ask the mayor anything. I think we're getting in the weeds right now
Right,
Yeah.
about whether it's a kit. It's like we're,
We wanna clear
it's
the
like we're
path.
choosing paint
Yeah.
for a house that
Right.
hasn't even been designed yet. I'm saying, putting something in the food systems RFP that dictates policy. It's not, I don't know how to make it happen.
Yeah.
I just know where I want to get to.
Okay.
And the people who do know how to make it happen should work on getting us to that point.
right.
Kristen, you had your hand up, you understand?
Yeah, can I just offer up a really interesting resource for everyone regarding community fridges? So the city of Boston has a Department of Food Access, and they have what you want to put it in the, oh, it's just gonna go to Emily. They have this the 2-pager that is called a community fridges toolkit, but it's basically a step-by-step of how people, just the basic guidelines for having a community fridge in Boston. And then I looked on their website and it looked, so they have a page for community fridges on the Boston's website. And it's interesting because it looks like it's a partnership between their food justice team and their inspectional services team. So I just thought it might be something that's kind of interesting as it sounds like there's like a conversation about the process of like what this looks like in the city of Kingston. And there is an example to explore a little bit further from Boston that has this system set up.
I'm familiar with this document. I think it's been used here in the city as reference point. I'm, by the way, not on the community fridge committee. But I just know a lot of people who have used it, who take and who give. And I just think it's an important part of what we should do. And even though it's community who's handling it, doing all the work, the city of Kingston and other entities within Kingston could intentionally support the effort to make it easier for them to be cited. SITED.
There is an email address on this community fridges page from Boston. So I feel like, Emily, I mean, I'm happy to send them an email and just be like, hey, how do you, as a municipality, granted you're much larger, but you know, I hear your question, Troy Ellen, of like, what can the city do? And I just find it always interesting to reach out to other municipalities and say like, how do you do the work?
Exactly.
That's cool.
That sounds great. Thank you.
That's a good idea.
So like I said, I'm not trying to figure out here the details of how we make it happen. I'm just asking whoever knows how to make those to figure it out, to like figure it out.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Troy. Any other thoughts on this?
Thank you for allowing this lengthy discussion.
Well worth it though.
Yeah,
I think so.
It's great.
and more to come. I think we're just starting it. I'm gonna propose, if you all are all right with it, to talk about our meeting agreements. I'd like to postpone it. It's about 10 after 5. I'd like to go move to our Well Focus Team presentation. Is that everyone okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Great.
In meeting agreement, should we have one of our agreements be, this is X amount of time we can spend discussing any one topic?
No, we're not gonna add that.
Come on, I like to laugh at myself.
All right, so.
Can you fix that typo?
So Marcia is here to talk about our Play Well focus team, which is showing a lot of energy right now. Take it away. Tell me how, if you want me to open up things.
Okay, sure. So, I remember, speaking last year, in this commission meeting, about resurrecting the Play Well focus team, that had been on hiatus during, COVID. And at that time, I think I just told you about my, listening sessions and fact finding. Given the feedback and the relationships made during that time, and a lot of support from Emily on how to get this started again, we came up with some action items and created a Play Well action plan. Thank you for opening that up. And one of the challenges that I spoke about last year is in doing this focus team work, that we might ask ourselves, well, like, why are we here, right? So we know that an action plan is going to guide our work. In some of our focus teams, it can be challenging to coalesce around projects and actionable items when something is new. I went ahead and initiated an action plan with Emily's support and kept it very simple to 3 actionable items. So the first goal was to resurrect the focus team. The second goal was to have the team work on a project that would promote and connect people to physical activity. And so for that, we chose to support the communications around the DRI Andretta Pool improvements. As you all know, we're gonna get a new stadium, and that's really exciting. And I'm sorry, can you go back to the action?
You wrote the action plan, sorry.
And then the third was to go down to the third one, was programming that encourage play and create collaboration. So I'm just going to speak to the current status, and then I'm going to have Emily go through, ask Emily to show a couple of slides that show like what we're working on. So going back up to number 1 on the action plan, the status. So Play Well was resurrected on December 6th. And I have to tell you all, it is the most fun, fastest hour of the month.
If you play.
This is like right up my alley. So
I want to join then.
oh my gosh, it's so much fun. So after a year and a half, we came together with mostly new members and some former supporters. We meet the first Friday of the month at 2 p.m. on Zoom. We've had 12 contributing members. We have a core group of about like 4 to 6, 7 people who come every month. And this is across 9 organizations.
Like what type of organization?
Sure, I'm gonna get to that.
Oh, okay.
Great question. Next steps in terms of our sustainable meetings is that we are going to start to meet in person for the next 4 months, and members of the team have volunteered to host at their location. So taking the Zoom out of the room. In our goal 2, identifying, we chose to come up with some recommendations for folks who walk at Deet Stadium track. And what we've done is identified a 1/4 mile and mile routes through Kingston. A 1/4 mile is the equivalent of 1 lap around the track. You go 4 times, you'll make a mile. We also looked at things like getting greater access to the Midtown Linear Park, and also to bring more people out to the parks, we came up with a fun idea called the Parks Passport. And I'm gonna show you a demo of that. And then going down to goal number 3. Where are we? Oh, yeah. We also set a goal the goal we're striving for is to coordinate 3 collaborative physical activity events. We just completed our first one, which was organizing chess matches down at T.R. Gallo Park, which has permanent chess table installations that this Play Well focus team worked on prior to COVID. We'll also be supporting the YMCA's annual Day of Play, which is still in planning. And we hope to schedule something for the fall for our 3rd event. So we're right on track.
Right, Hasbrook Park.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All right, so now let's go to our meeting minutes, please, Emily.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, questions, thoughts?
Can we get sidewalks in the Wilbur so we can actually walk in the neighborhood? I have to drive to Block Park to walk.
You do. That is.
Isn't that didn't we have this discussion before, and I think it's an awesome, but it's a state road, is it not?
No, it's not a state road, but, and the bike and master plan mentions it as a priority corridor.
Okay, it's a
It's
great.
really.
I mean, I'm not the only person.
No, and
It's
it's
so
a
narrow. and
it is, I look
dangerous.
at people riding their bikes on
It's
that
like-
road, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean,
There's no shoulder.
3 years ago, my grandchild and their friend were gonna come walk from the Roundel.
yeah, it's
Down to
beautiful.
Beale, and they were like, oh, we're just gonna walk from the Roundel down to Beale Street to come see you, Granny, and I was like, oh, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Because all I could think was they're gonna be hood ornaments.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
There's no space there.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful on the creek, but once you get up to the
Mhm.
main road,
It's a great view, so,
Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted with my rant.
that's quite all right. I asked Emily to pull up the Playbowl Focus Team, meeting minutes because as we started this team, as we resurrected this team with an action plan already in place, our agendas are aligned with what our action plan looks like. And it's really fabulous because it keeps us focused. People feel a real sense of like, why they're in the meeting, what is being asked of them. And in every meeting, I recap the work and I honor everyone's contributions. And I did a lot of visual like work with this focus team, thanks to Canva. And I put together summary slides so that when we have our meetings, they're like, oh yeah, we worked on that and there it is. Now it's a part of the plan. And it keeps people coming back. Okay, so we can move on. So who is that this? No, what's next on the?
I'm sorry to be a pain,
Yes.
but can you just, tell me what,
Oh, Playwell does?
what it
Sure.
encompasses, like the scope of it and how it differs like from, do we have a Move Well focus team?
No.
Okay, so I'm
So-
trying to think of it like overlaps with other ones.
Can you go back to the action plan, please? Or, no, that's fine, the meeting notes. If you scroll up to the top, because it's a part of the heading.
Mission, I guess is like sort of like way,
Correct.
yeah, okay,
So-
great, thank you.
Develops, implements, and supports policy systems and environmental change to facilitate the growth and maintenance of public parks, recreational facilities, open space, and other resources in order to increase, I did not write this, safe and accessible places for physical activity for all users.
Great, okay, thank you.
And we finally get to the end of the sentence, right? With users.
That's
Thank you.
fine, that's helpful.
That's it. Okay, so we can go on to the next bullet point that is on. Okay. When we go to so everything is in order. So we just did action plan, and so now we're on focus team. Oh, sorry, I did go out of order when I went to meeting agenda. I apologize, Emily.
No
So
worries.
let's meet who's on the focus team. So I don't have their pictures. I realized I never took a picture of all of us when we're on Zoom, but I wanted to tell you who our all-stars are. So what is so awesome is that we have Jack Shoemaker, who's the project manager for the DRI project, the Deet Stadium renovation. And he has been a really important member of the team because, you know, he's representing Parks and Recs. And so he gives us real-time updates about everything. So we've got our Captain Jack. Also, essential member of the team is Rob, the sorcerer from Trust Up. And Rob has really been supporting us with our technical assistance on some of the things we want to do, especially our Parks Passport, and we'll look at a demo of that. We've got like Marinia, who is the Kids Peace Family Coordinator. She works in, Kids Peace is a foster care agency. And she is always looking for keeping families informed about events that they can do with their kiddos on the weekend. We've got like Nanette, who Kristen works with in CHIS, and like Nanette covers the physical activity parts of that grant. We've got Emma Emanuela from the YMCA of Kingston, and I call her our ideas summiter because she is just a walking, talking ball of creativity and ideas. We have Center for Creative Education, Alessandra, who's our groove master, always ready to sign up to do some Zumba with adults and kids. And we've had some guest members who aren't always there. Myrna from the Youth Bureau, who was a professional salsa dancer, 4-H staff person who's now the executive director for Cornell Cooperative Extension, like Rashida, who was formerly in Playwell and who was able to join us on our maiden voyage this time around, and who generously offered us incentive prizes from the Y, which we'll be using in our Parks Passport. And thank you, Heidi, for signing off on that. Anyone else? And then we've got some folks from the Office of Employment and Training. And finally, we've got Mike, our Jedi Master, from who is the regional manager for the Mid-Hudson ARC. And I'm really excited that they're on board because that organization works with adults with disabilities, and that is something very close to my heart. I have a family member with autism, and we've been working with the ARC in Grow Well as well. Thanks, Emily. So where are we now? So, yeah, let's go to. So remember how I said that I would, in our Playwell meetings, I will show a summary of what we've worked on. So I take the former month's meeting minutes and create an illustration. So at the start of our meeting, we'll go over what was said last time, and it really helps to guide us in our next move. And so this was some of the brainstorming that took place around, you know, like how can we encourage our neighbors to use other parks during the renovation of Deet Stadium. And we came up with some really great ideas, and we've been able to see some of these things come into fruition over the past 5 months. The next one. Slideshow? Yeah. So one of the things that you can find on our Live Well Kingston Play Well page is a slideshow about getting to know Midtown Linear Park. And I want to thank Natalie from the grants department who took a walk with me, like to snap some of these photos here and just talking about how the park connects to the trails and some of the other work that comes out of our department. At the time that these photos were taken over the winter, the stairs had, access to the stairs were not complete, but they are now. Like we love that, you know, one of the locations comes right up to Midtown Rising. Broadway Bubble, like where we're doing some other activities for seniors with Age Well. Okay, it's good. Any questions,
Great.
thoughts like so far?
Love the-
Okay, connecting the
Love the
group.
energy.
Mhm.
You really made it come alive.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the passport. So one of the ideas that we are, one of the projects that we're working on is we are creating a parks passport, and we are going to be piloting that in 8 parks. We chose to just start phase 1 with 8 parks. These are the parks where the city has Wi-Fi. And what it's going to be is you are at each park, there will be a QR code that you can scan with your mobile device. Once you scan, it gives you a stamp. And you do that at all 8 parks, and then you enter into a drawing to win a prize, which is a family pass, a free family pass to the YMCA.
Lovely idea.
For 1 month.
Wow.
So we wanted to have a prize that was an experience, you know, like rather than a thing. So it would be like a family membership like to the Y. So we said, well, how are we gonna do this? I mean, you know, it looks really simple here, like on this one slide, but it was a lot of conversation, and also we had very huge like we wanted to do scavenger hunts and having people do some, you know, more complicated things, but we said, let's try this and see what traction we get from it.
And we can always add more parks.
Yeah. When's it starting?
Adding more parks, more challenge. Well, actually, in our last meeting, it was recommended that we start it when school is out. And that we do it in phases. So instead of just giving out one prize, because Heidi graciously, like we have 4 prizes, so we're gonna phase those out. So we'll start in early summer, we'll have one in late summer, we'll do one in the fall and one in the winter. Okay.
Do you want me to bring up?
Yeah, so here is a demo. So Rob at Trust Up has been amazing in supporting us in creating the landing pages. This is just a demo. It's not yet like complete. The feedback we got from our communications director here at the city is to have it look more like a passport. So everything from, you know, like the dark blue background and some gold like lettering, and having the stamp sort of like resemble, you know, what it would look like when we get our passport stamped at the airport. And these are the instructions. Yeah. Any thoughts or questions?
It's great.
And then, let's see, look, are these links like working at all? Let me see.
No.
Okay.
It's okay.
So what we had there, I mean, like you all know Kingston, you know, these points are pictures of the park. And the QR codes are going to be located at the park's entrance or where there is Wi-Fi. So it'll either be at the entrance or at the pavilion.
Can you promote it like through the schools too, for schools that
Yes.
out to let families know and, oh, yeah.
Like Nanette, who is already working in the schools through the CHIS grant and promoting physical activity, is going to be supporting us and getting the word out that way.
And I'm sure through like the Y and stuff too.
Yes,
Did you say that there's Wi-Fi in all of the parks?
Just these 8.
Just these?
Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't Wi-Fi in the other parks, but there are Wi-Fi that the city has set up, like.
And
So that
just
would-
these 8,
you
Yes.
listen to that,
be
just these
able
8. 8 is a lot.
To the QR code,
Correct.
are you guys thinking about including the other parks?
Yes.
And I'm just
So
thinking
where-
like accessibility.
Mhm,
People, you live near one park,
mhm.
but because they're not of the 8,
Right.
you won't be included in the passport.
That's true.
Part. So
Do you actually have to have, I mean, I know
in order to.
it's a kind of a
include-
barrier in certain regard, but you can still have a QAR code if the people have data.
Correct. If people have the data, but I think that what Lori is saying also, what if people can't get to the other parks? Like, is that what
Right, if
you
I
mean?
live near a park that's
Right,
not
exactly,
on
right.
this 8 list,
Right.
oh, I can't go to my neighborhood park or,
Like Lauren Park
right,
or Hasbrook Park.
See how many parks are missing?
There are 17.
There's a lot.
There's 17 parks and recreational facilities
so
managed by the city of Kingston. So we're starting, yeah.
Don't
So
have
we're
to have
starting
them, yeah.
small, right?
Yeah, but like I said, you know, most people have phones, so you still could have a QAR code. It's just such a, they couldn't access it through like a free Wi-Fi service.
Right, so we started with the free Wi-Fi service, and of those 8, 3 or 4 of them are in the same location, because Kingston Point Park, like the beach and Rotary Park are all all in the same area.
Okay,
Would probably have different Wi-Fi antennas, because it is pretty spread out.
Yes,
okay.
and they have different.
But if you
phones
can get there,
as
then
well,
you
right?
Do 3.
Yeah. And you can make this like the first round and then expand it as you
yeah,
know.
we want to see, I mean, like, we'll be able to track data, see where people are scanning the most from.
Yeah.
And that's why we're rolling it out in phases. We go back to the drawing board and
Yeah.
tweak it.
Sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds exciting. I want to do that now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I know you're sorry, what's your last?
Ellis.
Yeah, a healthcare person too. I was just thinking about promoting this in like the institute in our community health centers among families, encouraging them to be more active. There's so many opportunities for collaboration.
Yes.
And to get people moving into parks, it's that, I love it. And also just, I'm sorry, you just brought so much energy to this. It was incredible. Thank you. And I think it shows a lot too when a focus team has like a dedicated person and with some resources, I guess, to help really make something like this happen. So, it's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for that feedback. It's been a lot of fun, and it's a great team.
This is excellent what you've done with the place.
Yeah,
You know?
thank you. I also want to show, Emily, if you can pull up the draft of the quarter mile.
Yeah.
Like stockade walk. So the stockade walk is gonna be the first of 3. I'll do, I'll walk in Midtown and also down, on the promenade, down to TR Gallo. Just, I think it's mostly to just bring the awareness of, because there are many people who walk the stadium, but like to just bring the awareness in terms of distance. If you go from here to here, you're getting, the same, like you're covering.
Same area.
Yeah, like the same area across Kingston. And we can also just include some other like education from like national education on sites like physical activity guides that just talk about the health values of walking. So this is a demo of what that will look like. And also Jack, the project manager for the DRI, is going to be linking these projects on the Engage Kingston site. So as people learn more about the renovation at the stadium, it is our hope that they are encouraged to use other green spaces in areas across Kingston.
Thank you.
And then.
Marcia, I've got a question.
Yes, Vicky?
Did you say if there was going to be parking still available at the stadium during the renovations or no? Do you know?
Vicky, that's a great question, and we learned at our last Play Well meeting that we are, that during the renovation, that people will not be allowed to park at the stadium because we initially came up with a walking route that went from Deet Stadium through the stockade, and Jack let us know that actually, like, you may want to shift that and encourage people to use the parking that is on North Front Street, because the parking spaces there won't be available once the crew comes out and, puts shovels in the ground.
Is it something that we could see if the city of Kingston would be willing to designate a few of those parking spaces for walkers where we wouldn't have to pay, or maybe after hours at 5 o'clock or so?
That is a great question. Yeah, thank you. I like that, after hours, because Vicky and I are avid Vicky, I can't say avid because I know you haven't seen me there for a while, but I would run into Vicky walking around like the stadium. So that is a great question. Thanks, Vicky. I'm gonna bring that up with Jack.
Okay.
After hours parking is right. Okay.
Did you want Chestnut?
Yes, and finally, and if you can just go slow with these, because I'm, if you can open up the chess match.
Slowly, yeah.
If it will. You all know that we had our 9th annual Earth Fair. It's normally at Forsyth, and we had it at TR Gallo. And one of our Playwell volunteers, her name is Karen Merker. She is a teacher of the Mighty Pawns out of St. George Orthodox Church in Kingston. And she had her kiddos and their families come out for chess, and it was a lot of fun. So here we are set up behind Emily's bike valet, and there is me and Karen and the kiddos and families in the background. I'll just go through these quickly. So the kids played chess. We gave them some Healthy Kingston Kids t-shirts for their time. Keep going, and and some of them are very small, and they're really great at chess. They were out there for several hours. It was such a fun day. And if you go all the way down, we could just keep going. It's just snapped a few. And then we got some other people involved, passerbys. And finally, and guess who? Oh, yeah. And I think the last pick is, and then guess who showed up? One of our garden stewards from Lowell, Sasha. And there she is. And all of the families said, I had no idea there were chess tables down here. So mission accomplished in spreading the word that we've got chess tables.
That's great.
Because the Mighty Pawns, who are a pretty strong group that play competitively, they go to competitions, and they didn't know that there was chess tables right here in the city. So it was a successful event. And that's Playwell.
Thank you for this.
Yeah, and I think you
I
just
love that you brought your energy to this and have accomplished so much, truly. So even though I miss seeing you as frequently, I see you've been busy.
We've been able to accomplish a lot, I think, in these past
Absolutely.
5 months. Every meeting we get a lot of work done, and we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to meeting in person. You all are welcome to join the first Friday, because you don't have anything else to do.
Right.
The first Friday is at 2 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay.
all right. Yeah, any other questions or feedback from Marcia?
That's great, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support, everyone.
And so are you, Sue.
And thank you, Heidi.
Emily.
So soon, yes. Yeah.
Manuela, she's a lot of energy.
I'll see you all next month. Thank you so much.
So trying to keep her on, so you're doing.
We'll talk more.
Take care,
Yeah.
Marcia.
Bye. Thank you, Sherry. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
On the agenda, all we have next was no new business and any announcements or communications. We can have that go quickly. If anyone has anything, any job opportunities, events, program announcements, anything they'd like to have put out into the world via our commission. Yeah, Laura, go
The
ahead.
farm stand is back up and going at People's Place. We were supposed to start the vegan cart today, but it was canceled, which is Wednesday evenings. There are a few positions available at People's Place for I'm not exactly sure of the pantry manager's position, but if they go to peoplesplace.org and look for employment opportunities. And also there's a volunteer coordinator position available. And Christine is looking very hard. People don't seem to want to work these days, unfortunately. And we have a new chef over at People's Place, Dennis Quinn, and he's awesome, loves to feed the people.
That's pretty cool.
And Kristen McElroy,
Oh, that's good.
she organized a outing for us today. Some of the people in different agencies. We did a teaching kitchen from Lenox Hill. So that was awesome, and we spoke a lot about getting food, healthier foods into the community for people. So that's about it.
Thank you. I know.
And I've started doing by popular demand once a month soul food at People's Place. The last Wednesday of the month from 5 p.m. to 6:30.
Awesome. Awesome. So the seedling sale at the YMCA tomorrow, so you can start your garden beds. So that's.
Well, I had to take my tomato plants inside.
Yeah, tonight, take them in. And then the farm stand, I believe, starts the first week of June. We do have Juneteenth activity on Saturday, June 17th. There's be some storytelling through the eyes of a guy who works with youth to create short films, videos. So that should be a lot of fun. And then we have our farm solstice. It's a 10-year fundraiser dinner at the farm. It's coming up on the June 21st. So that's, and then our bike educator, we have Thomas decided to retire. I don't know if you know this. I do. We have found a replacement, so it's very exciting.
You found a replacement?
Yes.
Maybe you can't announce it yet, but who, do you know? who-
What position?
He grew up in the area. He's from Wallkill. You know, he'll be good. You know,
What's
it's gonna
the
take
position? Sorry,
Huh?
what's the position?
bike director, program director. So it's pretty good.
It's a very large bicycle this person has to fill.
Yes, it is. Indeed, it is. So he actually comes out of the BMX world.
Interesting.
So it's he's gonna bring, but he's part of the Fats and the Cats,
Yes.
New Paltz.
Nice.
So,
I can't wait to meet this person.
yeah, it'll be different, you know, but it'll take some time. We're excited.
Yeah.
When did you say the farm stand starts?
First week in June, seedling sales now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Susanna, you got anything? You want to announce?
getting closer and closer to Pine Street being done, I guess
Oh,
is the
that's
biggest thing.
exciting.
I'm actually giving some folks a tour tomorrow. We're interested, I think, in maybe doing some community stuff there. I look forward to seeing it. That's probably that's right now.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is, it's huge. We have another site opening, in conjunction with a huge, residential, place on 108th Street in Manhattan. We've run this with them, sort of partially homeless, unhoused people, but it's been completely renovated. It's like 6 times the size of what it was before. It used to be like 2 exam rooms, and now it's like 10. So, and they're both finishing at the same time, so everybody's like pulling their hair out, trying to start 2 health centers at the same time. It's not fun. It's a lot of work. It's fun, but it's, yeah.
Will the other, Institute for Family Health location on Golden Hills remain
So
open?
that's gonna stay. So the plan is, I'm actually going to a meeting on Friday to get more information, but the plan on, the Family Practice Drive will stay. But Dr. Marta Sanchez, who's the associate medical director, is going to move to Pine Street, and she's the medical director. So she lives like right in Midtown, which is great. And Dr. Woodley will, I think, be around Pine Street for a bit too. He doesn't see that many patients anymore, but he'll be there. And I know that there's a Spanish-speaking nurse practitioner who will be there as well. Then our OBGYN center, which is attached to the hospital, which is, defunct now, is going to be moving over to Pine Street. All the staff are going to be moving over. Okay. There's just a part-time OB.
Yeah.
So that's adding. And then we're recruiting 5 new mental health clinicians and a psychiatrist. So really expanding mental health there. Very difficult to recruit mental health clinicians, but I've heard, and I'll find out more on Friday, that they're making some headway, which is good. So it's a beautiful site, and talking to some local artists about doing this big mural thing on the stairwell the architects want to be done. So on tiles.
Awesome.
Yeah. So. It's gonna be really nice.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we'll have a grand opening. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And then then the other thing is, this is just, well, it doesn't matter, but Michelle Hinchy's office was great. They reached out to us and asked if they could do a period product donation drive for our patients, menstrual products. Brilliant idea. And they delivered them to us. I mean, the pictures are great. I mean, just like this table full. And I think constituents deliver them, they contribute that. So we're really excited. They're excited. They're going to 3 of our health centers that are in her district. So Kingston, New Paltz, and Hyde Park are going to be distributed and given to patients who need them.
That's
So
fantastic.
they're expensive.
Yeah, and they are still taxed, correct?
That's a really good question.
I believe they are.
Yeah, because I was
Yeah, they
reading
are.
and following something about why are they taxed?
Yeah.
It's not a
Luxury.
luxury, it's not a pleasure,
No.
it's a
Need.
medical
Yeah.
health need
Yeah, right.
for female.
Yeah, for 52% of the population of the world, 51%, I think. Yeah.
And they tax
Yeah.
them.
I know.
So
Crazy.
that's really
Yeah.
sad.
You should just go.
Yeah, thank you for all that. Vicky and then Dr. Later. Vicky, you have any announcements you want to make?
Yeah, just a couple of quick. We're still looking for 2 part-time site hosts for our Office for the Aging community cafes. And Office for the Aging is actually, they have some summer events on which that we're catering. On June 29th, there is a senior prom at the Rosendale Rec Center. And let me see, July, I think it's 27th at Lipman Park in Napanock, there's a picnic. And August 23rd, there's a picnic at Robert Post Park. And folks just need to be age 60 and older, Ulster County resident, and they have to call and make a reservation with the Office for the Aging. But it's, there's no charge to the senior. And that's it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yep, nothing new from me.
Well, thank you. That's easy.
You're welcome.
You sure? Yeah, nothing else? All right. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for a good meeting, and I don't have a date for next time, but you'll get an email reminder from me for our next meeting, and I'm gonna follow up with, the letter that we talked about, and I think there's something else I was gonna send you all, but I think I wrote it down in my other notes, so I'll have a follow-up email to you all. Awesome.
Thank you. The email reminders are very helpful.
Yeah. For sure.
Bye now.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good night. Take care, everybody.
Bye.